SuperWiseMag.com.
So,
Can't zoom in further.
do you have any questions?
Okay, great. This has been a great panel. We'll see you guys later. Oh, wait a minute.
So how does ADR work?
Oh, good one.
Both of them.
All right. So, here's the way it works. Really, really quick. The Japanese company that we decided to go into business with has a product. In order to take that product, we get the video from them, and we get we actually don't get it. We get the audio from them. Our translators take that audio and translate it into English, and they also, because they're awesome, add in notes to the side telling us things like, oh, this is a festival that happens in Japan at this such and such time, so that we have some kind of context for it. Then the lead writer, John Bergmeyer, assigns lead writer Chuck Huber to the script writing process. He takes the translation from the translator, says, I'm going to write episodes 1 and 5 and 7 and 9. And you, my person who are working for me,
Let's call her Jamie Markey, because she and I wrote a lot of stuff together.
are going to write the rest of the episodes, parcel out the translations, and then how does ADR script writing work?
Typically what you do is when you know you're doing whatever property it is, you get all the episodes that they can give you with the translations, or it's the subs. And so you watch the entire story. And a lot of times you watch it at time and a half, like 1.5 speed or 2 times the speed, because you just need to really see everything. Sometimes you have to watch it very slowly, or you go back and look at different parts, but if you're just trying to ingest 52 episodes of anime as quickly as possible so you're up to speed on all the character interactions, you just watch it at double time. So, and then sometimes it's a show like Bakano that I got to script adapt, and I just straight up watched that. I was like, this is awesome! And this is my job! So I was like, oh, I have to sit here for 9 hours and watch anime. That's my job. And the family's like, what are you doing? I'm like, working. So you watch the entire episode, and then you have the translation, and then sort of a blank template of a script. And they have the time code on the video, and you go to the very first noise a human person makes. So whether it's a reaction or a line, and the first thing you do is you get to, and they have people who specifically just do this, they're called time coders. And they will go in and place the proper time code for this is exactly when this reaction or line starts. And sometimes you do it yourself, sometimes someone else time codes for you. I did a lot of my time coding myself. So you like time coding? Yeah, it's kind of a relaxing OCD exercise. You don't have to think. It's just right here, type in a number, move to the next thing, type in a number. And then once you do that, sometimes I would time code and write at the same time. Sometimes I would just time code all the way through and then write all the way through. And by write, it's more script adapting. For some of the shows like Hetalia and Sergeant Frog and Jared Hedges did Shin-Chan, there's a little bit more freedom to craft new jokes or storylines. Jamie Markey and I writing Hetalia for the longest time, we kept trying to get a dolphin sandwich joke for Japan's character at some point, just because we thought that'd be fun. So you're looking for opportunities. What's going on? Give her a round of applause. So then you basically go, line by line, reaction by reaction, and put in the time code, and then take what the translator has given you. And the translator, maybe the line is, this bottle is on the table. But the flaps go, blah, blah. You're like, I can't fit all that in 2 flaps.
Here's the bottle.
Yeah, oh, good. I never would have thought of that. I was going to say bottle table.
That's how bad writing happens.
Bottle table. So yeah, it's kind of like a puzzle. You're trying to figure out the best way to say it in that character's sort of voice and inflection and their tempo, and to try to sound like the character.
The best writers, each character sounds different.
Yeah, all the the syntax is different. J. Michael Tatum is great at, what was the one he wrote where he got to write his own character and it was all crazy? Steins Gate. He did an amazing job writing on that. Because he got to write for his own character, which was much like just J. Michael Tatum animated. And he got to pull out all his, you know, $25 words. And so he just, it was a really neat exercise to watch him write that.
It was just a J. Michael Tatum masturbatory experience.
Yeah. Which I've seen both.
But the way the script is set up, a script does not look like an actual, like if you saw a screenplay, you would think that looks like a script, or a theater script, that's a script to you. This is just a table. It's a table that is set
like
up
an Excel spreadsheet,
yeah. And it has, I'm doing it from your perspective, not from mine. It has the line number, so like this is cue number 1, cue number 2. Cue number 1 is 2 lines and a reaction. Cue number 2 is 3 reactions. Cue number 3 is 1 reaction. And then it'll have the character name, whichever character is involved. Sometimes it has 3 characters reacting at the same time. And then it will have the time code, where the very frame, down to the 35th of a second, the mouth starts to open, or the sound happens because you see the punch hit the face, and that's where you would make a sound. So that's the frame that that sound happens on. And then you have whatever you have adapted them to say. And we have weird codes within that. We have like an ellipse. Ellipses tells you that there's a pause. So if you see punctuation, a period, a comma, anything like that, there's no pausing. There's no pausing in baseball. There's no pausing in anime. You just go right on through, and if you see an ellipse, that's when you pause. And then if you have a reaction, it's placed in brackets. It'll be brackets, and then all caps, it'll say MNS/CT grunt. And that means mouth not seen, so it starts off into clenched teeth, so it's a character that comes on with clenched teeth, grunt. Yeah. Or it'll say OM surprised gasp, which is open mouth surprised gasp. We have CM closed mouth, NIJ not in Japanese, just a whole slew of different things. And then there's one section over to the side with notes from the writer where Chuck will say, that's funny looking animated mouth isn't open, and he's still talking.
Yeah. To just give hints to the director or the actor as to how to try to best pull off the line.
Or if you're Michael Tatum, it'll be a note about how that stems from a biblical phrase that was actually adapted into a Roman saying that was actually put on the money that was...
Right, you're like, wow.
I didn't need to know any of that.
But
we joke because he's awesome. And we can.
We love Jim.
He's one of the best writers we have.
I don't even know what shizzle means, but I said it.
So, the writer writes it, or gets his sub-writers to write it. They then give it to the director, whoever has been assigned to direct that series. The director casts the show. You have auditions in which you get to call in everybody and anybody, and they come in and they read what are called sides. Sides is a picture of a character, and there's a bunch of different lines from that character. And the person comes in.
Typically, like for the audition process, you walk in and there's a 3-ring binder with a picture of the character, a still frame, a screen grab, and then like 7 or 8 lines from in table format like they would be, but sort of out of order in the script. It's just those characters' lines. And there'll be like all the dudes in the series in one section, all the ladies in another section. And then you sort of look through and see which characters might be in your sort of wheelhouse. You know, if there's like a short, crazy alien, I'm like, oh, I'll do that one.
And after a while, you get used to who they're going to call you.
Yeah.
She has big boobs, I'm going to be called into that.
And a lot of times, if you know the director, like if I were going in to audition for Colleen, I'd go, I kind of had a feel for this one. What do you think? And she's like, yeah, that one, but I really want you to read this one. And you go, oh, okay, why? And then she'll tell you, because it's kind of like this, or it's like that, and then you go, oh, okay, yeah, I can.
And you can trust, like, when you come in to read the sides, you might have something completely different in mind for a character, and then come into the booth with the director and read it for them, and they say, wait, it's way too cartoony, you pull him back, and he's actually, like, really flat and emotionless. So you have to make that adjustment on the fly. And so then you cast the show, the director casts the show with whoever best fits the characters.
Usually Chuck.
Usually Chuck. You cast the show with Chuck, or Chuck and Chuck. And then we use our awesome talent coordinator, Tara Williams, to call everybody in a staggered schedule, which it befuddles the mind.
Yeah, I don't know how she does
it.
any of it.
We should show you the calendar. It's like, because she has booths A through E and J to fill. That doesn't make sense, does it? There's 5 booths in a row, those are really nice swanky booths, and then there's one booth that is far off in a corner, but it has a window and a couch. That one's J. And there's A through E. And on each calendar, it will be Monday, 10 to 11, Michael Tatum, 11 to 11:30, Chuck Huber. I gave you 30 minutes.
No, that's typical. I do a lot of short characters. It's true.
11. Well, but he might be 11 to 11:30 in A, and then in E he'll be 11:30 to 1, and then later 3 to 6 he'll be in D. So it's all broken down, and they have this ingenious way of telling us how long it should take to record each set of episodes. You're given a set of 6 episodes to record at a time usually, and they say, okay, this is going to take you 1 month or a month and a half to do. And that's how long, that's your deadline, that's when you're due to, and you have to get everybody recorded in that time. And the director's job is to, actually we should explain the recording process.
Yeah, the recording process, when you go in to record, you step into the booth, and typically, I've already said this, the director will give you the sort of like summary of what's going on with your character and in the arc of the show. Because maybe you're a main character, maybe you're a 2-episode villain, and so they just sort of give you your piece of the puzzle. And you hop in the booth and you sort of play with the voice until the director's like, that's solid, that's what I want. But in the booth, there's kind of like, I always describe it like it's a dance audition, if you've ever been in a theater audition, and the choreographer's like, okay, and this next part is step and push and touch and turn and touch and down. And you're like, okay, step and turn. Like, you have to kind of memorize the steps really quick in that audition. It's the same part of my brain is at work, because you watch it and you're like, it's talk and pause and talk and turn and talk and pause and hand. So you kind of have to just memorize the rhythm of it, and just like it's a dance audition.
Yeah, that's a very good way of describing it. So, we come in to record that, and the director's job in all this, there's a director and an engineer outside of the booth. There's a glass partition between the actor and the director and the engineer. The engineer is doing magical things to record the audio into this magical box of the computer, which can then, if it's a little bit too long, compress the file to make it fit, or extend the file, which is a little bit more dangerous to stretch it out. They can flip,
or take a pause, make a pause a little longer, a little shorter.
Yeah,
pause
clip
between
everything
lines.
together. Or if your Todd Habercorn is in the booth, then he will record an entire scene, and then at the very end, he will just say a bunch of those lines one more time in a way he thinks would fit it better.
Right.
But it's out of order with the video. He's just talking, just recording on a track, and we all kind of do this. Todd just does it more than everybody else. And then the engineer will cut all of those up, place them, because it's a good engineer, place them where those lines actually happened in the set that he just did, and probably those will fit perfectly and we'll move on.
Yeah, I'll do like a wild take after a line. A wild take is where you've done the line where it should be in the video, and then the recording keeps going, and you sort of throw that. The director sometimes will coach you to do it. Like you'll do a reaction like, ugh, and he'll go, give it to me again louder, ugh, but you don't do it in line with the video. They ask you to just sort of throw it up and
then the engineer clips that out and puts it in place.
Yeah, and he clips it and sticks it where it should go.
And the director's part in all of this is to make sure that whatever you are saying, if you're the first person recording, they know what that other person in the scene is going to sound like. And so they make sure that you are talking to that person at the correct distance, that you're talking at the right emotional level, that you are saying the words in a way that makes sense, because you don't know the scene any better than you did a minute ago, probably.
Right.
So you might emphasize the wrong word because you don't realize that it's a repetition of another character's line from earlier. And so the director's job is just to keep all of that in mind and make sure that they're building something cohesive, make sure that they're building to something.
Yeah, and you can't get it right every time. We always have, like, whenever we go into the booth, they always check the pickup log. And a pickup is where maybe you put the the emphasis on the wrong word and it made the meaning wrong, so you have to re-record a line that you thought was right. So they do a pickup log, and when you come in to record in booth A, they may have pickups for you in B or D, and you go in, stop it, Spoon. You go in there and you just record a line differently, or sometimes like the name, they'll have the pronunciation wrong, and they're like, no, his name is not Yuichi, it's Yuichi. And you're like, oh, okay.
We'll go back and get permission from we send the Japanese a list of all of our pronunciations, and they correct us if they want something different or whatever, and so we'll go back in and get pickups for anything that was pronounced incorrectly.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
And then the very last part of the process is, so you've recorded all the actors, and then it goes to sound mixing, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and then it goes to, well, the engineer first does a cleanup pass, so the engineer will go through and take out all of our nasty pops and smacks.
He basically is removing spit and snot from
that's really a large part of the engineer's job.
There's actually a noise you make at the back door of your nose. It's called a Bergmeyer. It's named after John Bergmeyer.
Nobody else will call it a Bergmeyer, but people at Funimation.
Only at Funimation.
Old school Funimation.
Old school Funimation.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
man,
told
yeah,
somebody
Bergmeyer.
that recently. I was like, oh yeah, a little bit of a Bergie in there. And the engineer looked at me like, what?
A Bergie?
A little Bergmeyer. And he's like, what? And then he claimed that John Bergmeyer does not make that sound.
He did back in the day.
Yeah.
He's since corrected it. With surgery. Watch, people are sending him get well cards right now. John is better.
I wonder how frustrating it is that we're still calling it a Bergmeyer when he doesn't make the sound anymore. I fixed it! So yes, and then it goes to the
I had
mix.
a habit that was like a Bergmeyer. I was hoping to get it named. Is I would teeth click at the end of a line. So I'd say, hey, what's going on? And then my teeth would make the clicking noise right next to
Really?
it. Yeah.
That's
I had to
terrible.
remove that. I know, I fixed it.
Who was it? Was it Tina who, when she first started out, there was at the beginning of her words?
Oh, the tisking, yeah.
So anyway, wait.
Cannot tisk.
And it would be actually when the line was supposed to start too.
Yeah, I was right with the...
And
But the engineer cleans all that up and then sends it to the mixer.
And
sound
the
mixer.
mixers are awesome, and they make everything sound at the right level, put on all the filters, so if it's a robot, it sounds like it's going out of a robot. And if it's somebody talking in an alleyway, it sounds like they're talking in an alleyway.
Right, they put the effect, the environmental effect on it, so that's what makes it sound like it's not a boost tone.
Scale through. But if you can tell a good writer when you watch the show, well, either a good writer or a good rewriter,
Right.
when you watch the show and it sounds like people talking, like that is how that conversation would have gone.
And sometimes it's with the property. Some properties aren't written as well as others. Some are kind of bubblegum, you know, look at the boobies or whatever show. And not to diss those, some of those are very well written. But depending on the show, there's a little bit more attention to detail.
Yeah.
And they do. I mean, it's a competitive position, the writing position. They give the top shows to the top writers, and the writers who do the best work are tasked with being responsible with Attack on Titan or whatever, you know, like, oh my god, it better not suck. You know? And those shows aren't typically the best written ones. And then sometimes
a lot of research that goes into those.
Yes.
Those writers do research. I mean, they really look into things.
one of my favorite things on Bakano was, it was, you know, 20s and 20s language, was trying to take the translated line and be able to fit in some of the 20s slang.
Yeah.
And that was, so I always had like 3 or 4 pages of 20s slang up, and I'd get to a point like in the translation and be like, oh, he's calling her hot. How do people call people hot in the 20s? And you look and try to find something that fits there. To me, that was really
That's cool. Yeah.
You guys.
Well, we just had an interview, so
How do you determine what titles end up getting?
we don't. We actually have nothing to do with it.
Is it the Japanese that say you're this?
No, it's
partially, yeah.
How does it?
Yeah.
We have a department in Funimation called Acquisitions, and their job is to go talk to the Japanese production companies and decide which shows they want to acquire. And sometimes it's a matter of, we want that one, and the Japanese company will say, okay, but you have to take this one, this one, this one, this one. And that's how we acquire the shows. In terms of who, like, director or writer gets to work on a property, that's all decided by our producers, Justin Silk and Michael Harcourt.
And and they do a lot of that based on, because different directors have different strengths. You know, some directors are really great at comedy. Some directors are really great at drama. Some directors are, you know, really good at turning out a lot of work fast. So sometimes there's shows that come in and it's got to go because it's going to go on air and it better be done right. It better be done right the first. Yeah, it's going to be Zach Bolton's. Yeah, so it depends on the property.
Yeah. And they try to be fair, and they take into account a certain amount of, I really want this show. Like, if Chris Bevins really wanted Princess Jellyfish, he can go and say, I really want this show, and they'll try to work it into his schedule. But a lot of times it has to do with your schedule. I'm finishing my series on this date, and that's the date that this other series is needing to start up, so that's the one that's going into my book.
Yeah. I like Princess Jellyfish. That was a fun show.
I said that was really nice.
I got to write it. That's one of the things about script adapting or writing is that, like, sometimes you have to do shows that are like, this isn't any fun. You know, this isn't my cup of tea. But then you get past a property that's like, oh my God, this is awesome. It's so much fun to write. And you have to, just like an acting gig, you have to bring the same amount of like attention and professionalism and skill to shows you don't like as you do to shows that you're in love with. It's easier with the shows that you're in love with, but sometimes harder because you feel like you're going to fail it if you don't.
Too much. Yeah. And sometimes it's fun with the shows that you, I won't say don't care about, because I don't care about all the shows.
Sure.
But
I love Dragon Ball.
The shows that are maybe less high profile, sometimes it's fun to take chances on those shows. To cast people that you wouldn't have cast usually, or people who don't, who aren't known for this voice. Let's give you a chance to use this voice.
Yeah, like Monica using her deep voice. What's she first use it?
Yeah, well, she's done it for a ton of stuff, but she just
most recently
for Michiko and Huntsman.
Yeah, her sexy deep voice is sexy.
Yeah. She's all ghetto in that one too. She did a really good job. And that came out of nowhere. That came out
Oh, really? Auditions are good. I like auditioning. Auditioning is my favorite part of the process.
Yeah, it's really fun.
Because it's like, you just feel like, okay, forget it. I'm going to pretend I am the absolute right person for this, and I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. And then you forget about it and move on and go, oh God, I hope they cast me. But sometimes you won't know for a very long time. Like, Hiei didn't come in until episode 8 of Yu Yu Hakusho, so that was on the second contract. So that whole first contract, I didn't know I'd been cast. They don't tell you until it just comes up in the schedule. There's no formal like announcement process. They just wait till they schedule you to let you know you got it. Because they're doing so many different properties, they can't like hold your hand and you got it, yay! No, you just wait till you're scheduled.
They're not thinking about it from your perspective, yeah.
No, and so I thought I didn't get Yu Yu Hakusho because I thought it was, I knew it was already recording, and I was like, damn. And then the second contract came up, and they're like, and you're Hiei, and I was like, all right, that's awesome. And then I killed a guy, started a homeless guy on fire.
Okay, so how does Space Dandy work into it?
It's a slightly different process.
Yeah, it was a different process. You can probably talk more about the writing.
I don't know about that. I know, I asked Zach about this because I went in to record some Space Dandy. I don't know if my
It was
episode's
so
there.
hugely quick. It was just one of those shows that came in and they had decided to simulcast at the same time.
Right, so the Japanese comes out and ours has to be out. The next day ours has to be out. So there's like a 2-week window for 2
Everything
episodes or
has to
something.
get done.
So it's like it's got
I mean, to write and direct and mix everything. It was that's really, really fast. So that was a quick audition process. He didn't audition for every character, just a couple of them, and he only auditioned with select few people because he had everything. And then his recording quickly, we recorded over holidays. People had to be, he had to cast people who were going to be in town for Christmas. That was one of his things that we had to think about.
So are you going to be in town for Christmas? No. You can leave.
Saturday.
I'll stay. Forget my family. And Jesus.
And then the writers were just under the gun. The writers would find out that they had to write an episode, and then they would be told your due date is in 2 days.
Right, yeah, like turnarounds of 2 days or 3 days on scripts, which is
Crazy.
very tight.
Not for my sister. That's
No,
not
she
average.
can. Bonnie can crank that stuff out. She doesn't. I think she types in her sleep.
Yeah. But have done all of it.
No, it was yeah,
How hard is it to break into writing?
pretty hard. Yeah, I mean, it's a competitive, like it's so competitive. I dropped from writing for a while because I was doing more production stuff, and I'm not back in.
Yeah.
Like, and it may be 2 years before there's enough of a, volume of work that, oh, we need someone and Chuck's available. So like, and to do the writing, you kind of have to be born inside the building.
You kind of do. I mean, literally. Do you know anybody who has gotten a gig writing who was not involved in anime? Like, other than old school? Before?
I think John has brought in some guys that he knows. I remember writing IO, what was it called? IO was it was a 3D animation movie that I wrote with another guy who John had just brought in because he had submitted stuff and he liked his work. So, I mean, you can always try to find contact information and submit stuff, but it is a big, big long shot in terms of...
I know that sucks to hear, but yeah, a lot of time it ends up being, a director or an actor because it's somebody that they knows flaps.
Yeah, it's a very technique-specific writing form. It's not something that you could just like, oh, I can pick that up and do that. If you've been recording anime for a decade, it makes it a lot easier to write it because you've seen so many scripts, you know what feels right, you know what reactions need to be scripted just sort of naturally. And even then, I wrote a little bit back in the DBZ days, and then I was like, videotapes are stupid, and I couldn't do it because I just got frustrated with videotapes. And then when they went to QuickTime files, instead of using the actual video to write to, when they went to QuickTime files, I was like, I can tolerate this because you can deal with the video faster. It was a very sort of arduous process with the videotape, as you can imagine, because you'd sit there with your remote and your VCR, and you're watching it, and it's like play. And you're kind of saying the line in your head, and then rewind, and it's and then you go too far, and then you gotta press play again.
Yeah.
So
People wonder why the flaps are not as good back then. I can't imagine.
Yeah, whereas with QuickTime, you can or a lot of times I would import my video into Final Cut, and you could just set a loop point. So I would just loop the line and just let it loop, 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 loop while I was writing, and then I'd go to the next cut point, and it would loop over that line. For the longer lines, for shorter lines, you just would.
And that was back in the day when it was also, that was the way it was being recorded in the booth. Like it was
With videotape.
The tape, yeah.
It was like a string can.
I remember the sound.
The
sound. I was there just for the tail end of that, but I remember the sound of the line being done and
Yeah.
Okay, try it again.
It was a very, so. Did that answer the question?
How often do you guys voice in groups?
In
Like
groups.
Voila?
You do the recording session in a group.
We don't ever do a recording session in group for main characters. For
Except
Waller,
Dragon Age.
Dragon Age.
Did they bring some of us in all together? No, we did a table read.
That was, we did like 2 people, like Chris and I, and actually one other person, would come in and record for them to do the scratch, the animation too, the cell animation.
Yeah, that's what it was. So they're recording our faces.
But they, we never, with anime, we never do our main characters in a booth with other actors. The only time you'll have other actors in the booth is when you're doing the background noise, like Market Walla or Pirates.
In frickin' One Piece?
Yeah.
Pirates JJ through X11.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so many pirates. More questions? Yes.
How far ahead, when a show goes on air, do you record and stuff?
It totally depends on the show. There are some shows that we don't find out any more than you know. And then there are some shows that we've moved ahead before it's been announced. And that way it's ready to go. It's ready to get it out to you faster. And that's why it's really hush-hush. And you just have to sign things that say we will obtain my blood. And my first child, we will never tell you anybody. And that's why all of us, when you ask about the series, we're like,
Don't look at each other
half the time I look at you, I realize to talk about it, and then I'm like, oh, I don't know.
Yeah. Most of the time, you guys know, most of the time I find out about stuff from you guys at conventions.
Seriously.
Oh really? There's another season of that? Awesome.
Yeah.
I try to stay out of trouble by being ignorant of everything.
Yeah.
Because you're dead.
It's a good method.
It is, man. Where am I?
That's funny because Patrick and I had that conversation before I left. Where are you going?
I don't know.
It's either New York or Florida. I should think about that before I pack.
I do the same thing. Every time I go to a convention, I do the same thing. Invariably, I am driving to the airport and I'm like, oh God, the ticket booth where you're going to get your little ticket to get in the airport. And then I'm scrambling through my phone trying to find where my flight is and where I'm going and which terminal it's at. And there was one time I went to an airport and I my ticket wouldn't come out. I'm like, can you check? I'm supposed to be leaving in like 45 minutes. And it's saying I don't have a reservation. And they were like, oh, you're going next week. And I was like, oh.
Oh no.
I guess I'm early.
Late, or it's better than them finding out that it's on a different airline, which
Yeah.
has happened to me. I'm at the American desk and it turns out it's stuff.
How do you get on
Nothing to do
travel?
with it,
Yeah,
what you're
let's talk about something
talking
else. One time I had a pet rat.
Tia has pet rats.
I love them. They're very good pets.
They're very cuddly.
They're cuddly and they're smart and they can survive longer than camels without water and a drop from a 2-story height. No, I didn't test it, but I had a rat.
Are
No,
you
I'm serious.
starving your rats, dropping them off of a building and then telling us this?
You'll be okay, buddy. My rat was so smart, I would let him out at night, much to my mother's chagrin, so that he could like crawl around the house. And every morning when my alarm would go off for school, he would be right by my alarm. And I'd put my hand out, he'd hop into my hand, and I'd put him back in the cage.
Really?
Yeah.
Your mom must have been nuts.
She did not like the idea of me giving a free-range rat
Or
the
a
keys to the house.
gigolo to every female rat with it.
Hey, should stay in the house. Hey, it was my rat. Of course he was sexy. I can turn anything into me being awesome.
Except dubbing.
Colleen is the toughest director. Like in terms of directors, she has no tolerance
I used
for
to be.
Yeah, you are. She used to be really mean because like she wanted it to be the very best. And if you weren't giving it like your actual acting chops, she was like, no. Wrong. Let's start over. No, we're just
But
gonna
with
start.
acting.
Yeah.
I just, it's
She
just that
wants
it's
to do it
not
again this time.
believable in any way.
Do that again, except this time don't suck. Okay, Colleen.
I was so terrible, and I was such a bad actor's director because I was an actor myself, and I had never directed anything other than dubs. And so when I started out, it was very frustrating to me that I knew how to say it, and I wasn't in the booth saying it.
Oh, and to her credit, and sometimes you want to be just given a line reading, like, let's not mess around with this, just tell me how to say it. And they just give you a line reading and you do it that way. Colleen is very resistant to giving line readings. She's my favorite type of director where she's like, there needs to be, he's angry, but it's sort of a seething, and she'll kind of give you the line reading as in the direction, it's a seething. And you're like, I'm so angry.
It's funny because Chris said that when I first started directing, I gave so many line reads that he bought me a t-shirt that said, repeat after me, repeat after me, repeat after me. I'm much better now. Part of it was because I was working 18-hour days and now I'm not.
Yeah, 18-hour days will kill you.
Get frustrated by anything.
Especially actors, because every time we go into the booth, it's like playtime for us, and the directors have been like hard at it for many, many hours. So you're in like, doo-ba-doo-ba-doo, and the director's like, we need to get through this stuff.
That's accurate.
Yeah, quite enjoyed it. Yes, sir.
Have you either directed other, I mean, you probably have directed voice actors like maybe from LA or from but are there any like ones in particular that you really know as an adult that you really got to know like, very closely?
It's hard to tell whether we got to know them through work or through conventions, honestly. Like Johnny and Bosch, I know Johnny.
But even for conventions, are there some that?
Oh, sure, yeah, we know tons of other voice actors from LA, from Houston, from New York.
New York, Canada.
Yeah.
Even some of the Japanese voice actors. Like I met my Japanese counterpart for, I can't remember if it was Hiei or Android 17, but we're hanging out in the green room and he was acting like me. I was like, oh my gosh, there must be something about, because he was like all Japanese, so it was really neat. We were similar spirits. I was like, oh, I feel like we captured it.
Yeah, we know Crispin, we know Mary Elizabeth, and Laura and Travis moved, but Michael Center Nicholas and Jamie McGonigal.
Yeah. Yeah, Laura
Liam
and
and
Travis.
Sam.
I missed them.
Yeah.
Travis and Laura and I were at Colossal Con, and it has an indoor water park, and I didn't bring a swimsuit, neither did Travis, and so Laura and Travis went to the Walmart, and they're like, we'll get you a swimsuit. I was like, cool. And Travis hands me the swimsuit. It's got like pink surfers. It's just like the gayest, stupidest thing. Plus, he got me like a small, so it was like skin tight. I mean, like nothing for the imagination. He's like, thanks, Travis. You're awesome. And I come out of the locker room, and he's wearing the exact same thing. Like, dude, you are awesome. I was hating you, but now that we're lovers. Cool. She wiped us out in poker that night. They loved it. Teaser. Yes. Oh, I was looking at you.
Oh. How do you guys feel about traveling?
Traveling?
Yeah. Did you guys go all over the country? How do you guys feel about that?
Sometimes it's awesome, sometimes it's not.
It's like any other job. I mean, a job is a job, and there's job parts of it, and there's awesome parts of it.
Yeah.
I like it because I've gotten to, especially this past year, visit a lot of friends, or have friends come visit me. I was a best man in my friend's wedding, and he was in 9th grade. I have a little cross tattoo. He and I, we had our little cross tattoos together. And I got to see him 2 weekends ago because I happened to be near him in Virginia Beach, and he and his wife and my goddaughter drove down. And so it's like that part of the traveling is awesome. Or sometimes you get to like go to I'm going to Australia in June for 2 weeks, and I've never been to Australia, so that's going to be amazing. You get to travel, like
Yeah,
traveling fun
traveling is fun. We've
places.
seen the world. I mean, I've been to New Zealand, and I've been to England for a con. I've been to lots of places in Canada for cons, and every state. And that's awesome. And it's great to meet you guys and actually feel like we're in contact with people
Yeah, that's
who are
really
interested
fun.
in the shows. That's awesome.
The hard part is the actual traveling, like
Yeah.
the
That's
plane.
kind of, like, I'm okay with planes and airports as long as everything's running on time, because then you get to sit and read, and that's enjoyable.
Yeah, it's kind of a Zen exercise
Yes.
for me.
But
Just
as
kind
soon
of
as
be like,
things start going wrong, that's when stress happens.
yeah,
And you get sick so much more often when you're traveling.
it's true.
And this is just a really hard time to travel for me right now, so it's
Because she's pregnant.
because I'm pregnant.
She's pregnant.
Haven't said that enough.
I have.
Yes, that's my first.
That she knows of.
Not as well.
Cool question, but are you gonna find out what the sex is?
We already kind of know. We did the early, because I'm advanced maternal age, so we did the whole NT testing that you can do to make sure that everything's kosher, chromosomally, and they give you their assumption, which our doctor said she was 97% sure it was this, and then she said you might not want to tell anybody because it's not for sure, and wait until your 20-week ultrasound. We'll wait.
So you kind of already know, but you haven't found out.
We know we haven't found out for triple sure, and we're not telling people yet.
I'm telling people.
haven't even
It's either a boy or a girl. Made of rubber.
The only person other than my husband and I who know is my sister.
Bonnie. Bug Bonnie.
Yes, everybody email Bonnie.
Now, since you brought up travel, I have a question for you. A lot of the more homegrown examples that we've seen today of voice acting and actual collaborative work have been through the advent of technology, just emails, Skype and such. Would you guys feel comfortable with that as professionals? Just like sending in a word bit, a sound bit, and just saying, I'm done, I'm in my robe, my slippers, didn't have to leave my house.
Yeah, absolutely. I kind of started at the top in the anime because you're going to start with Dragon Ball Z and awesome characters, and then you're going to do Yu Yu Hakusho. But a lot of the voice actors do books on tape, or they do real estate listings, or they do and I've just started radio commercials. I've just started doing. I do a lot, like, I'll go to conventions and then someone will be like, I'm going to make a video game. And you're like, you go, kid. And they're like, I'll call you or send you an email and you'll do a character. And you're like, great. And then you get an email and it's like, do this character. And you're like, okay, I'll do it. And so I do that quite often. And I've been, like, really surprised because more than half of the time that I usually expect that it's just going to be like a freebie. I'm just helping someone and being encouraging. But I did one, and because I treat them all the same, so I don't really do a lot of research on stuff. But I had done, it was for a video game called The Huntsman, and I didn't know anything about it. And so I did the voice for it, and it was out of Australia. And then they were like, because we hadn't discussed pay at all, I didn't think I was getting paid. And then it was a payment that it was bigger than I was used to. And I was like, suddenly I was like, oh my God, let me re-record some of it. So a lot of times I'll be doing indie stuff and then it becomes professional stuff. And then people I meet at the conventions suddenly are my boss. And I'm like, okay, cool. Because I'm an independent contractor, I can, I'll work for anyone. And if I have time, if it's a freebie, it's always in queue. Like, I had some fans who wanted me to do a parody of Baby Got Back by Sir Mix-a-Lot, but in the voice of EA. I like big hair and I cannot lie. And so it was really, I said, that's great, do it, it better be good, but it's going to take a while for me to get it to you. And I had a free sort of couple of hours, because the only thing worse than a Sir Mix-a-Lot parody is a badly done Sir Mix-a-Lot parody. So I found myself in Hiei's voice rapping for a couple hours the other day. For free, just,
You're a really nice guy.
I am extremely nice.
Don't expect that.
Not from
many
busy people. I'm
Not
not
from
busy.
anybody else.
I am a whore.
You're not getting paid.
Oh, I am a slut.
I'm a whore. Let's just be clear.
Wait, is it the late night panel already?
If I take you out for Taco Bell, will you act for me? Just throwing in dinner to see what happens.
If you don't take me to Taco Bell, I'll act for you. If I can skip the Taco Bell and just get a script and an email, I'll record it. Well, I used to do these dub tracks, which were CDs that were me doing sort of like episode commentaries. If you guys are familiar with riff tracks, the guys who do Mystery Science Theater, it's the same thing but for anime episodes. And one of the things on the CD was I will record anything for you personally. And so these kids who had me do so I got paid a little. They bought a CD for $5. So it was $2.50 an hour. For me, it's
That's barely okay if you move the decimal point.
well, for me, it was like, I think that will be a sort of popular meme thing. I thought that might get, and I'm not very good at the social media thing, so if fans want stuff and I can do it and it goes out there and helps promote me as an actor and an entity, I'll do that. So it's, it's win-win. If it's promotional for me and helpful to you. Like the guys who do the like DBZ Abridged or Yu Yu Hakusho. Yeah, the Team 4-Star guys. I remember them, they were like, we're gonna do an abridged series, you know, back in the day. And then I was at YomaCon with them, and they were like, we're celebrating our 1 millionth subscriber on YouTube, and I was like,
people know that stuff when they know DBZ.
I know. It's like I should have been your boss. Yeah, in the back.
You said that you're not a contract. You're not on contract. So is that?
No, I'm a subcontractor.
So you subcontract. So is that implying that some people are contracted for?
Well, like, forgive me. I mean, you're a salary Funimation employee.
Yes.
So, do you get paid extra for your voice work? Oh, you're so lucky! So you're working while at work?
Well, it's a bonus structure, yeah.
Oh, it's a bonus. Okay. Yeah. So I'm just a complete. You know, I contract for myself. I have no actual job.
Which is how we do it for anything else, for like video games or
Yeah.
what have you. They tell you this is the amount you're going to get per hour, or this is the amount you're going to get for the year. And this is how much time we need from you, and that's the rate is you sign on the dotted line.
Yes, over here.
When you move to LA, you make 3 times more.
Yes, true.
I just wanted to ask, how did you come up with your personal characterization of Android Citizen?
That was really funny because I walked into the booth and the videos was up and I went, who's she? She's totally hot. And Savit was like, no, that's you, man. And I was like, oh, I feel creepy. And then for Android 17, I came in, I was like, I'm going to be Android 6. You know, I had like all this like fire and energy, and he's like, no, relax, man, just relax. And so I kept, I'm like, okay, I'm going to kill all the humans. He's like, no, just relax, man, relax. I'm going to kill all the humans. And he's like, no, don't do anything. Don't stop
Barely talk.
doing it. And I was like, okay, I'm going to kill all the humans. And he's like, perfect! Dude, I'm not doing anything. He's like, that's what I want. I'm like, this is awesome.
Sitting down.
I was like, yeah, I did record it sitting there. It's like a voice actor vacation. There's more lines I'm going to say.
That's how Yuko from Pollock. It was like, that's the easy. I literally could record on a stool in the when the booths were tiny, when it was a whisper room, with my feet up, like leaned back, with the microphone in front of me. They couldn't see it. They didn't know. I could literally record that way with her. With Luffy, it's like if I'm not standing up, then nothing has power.
Yeah. Because you really have to, I mean, I'd say if there's a muscle you have to have as a voice actor, it's all your abdominal muscles. Because you really have to like imitate the sort of actual stress level your vocal instrument would be under if you were fighting or running or jumping, so you really have to.
Now imagine that, but pregnant. Because that's what I'm going through right now, is whether or not I should record Luffy for like as long as I'm pregnant, because I feel like that's got to be distressing.
No,
I'm
babies love
yelling
that
and like I'm fighting, and I'm getting red in the face from all the screaming. Because it thinks I'm mad at Patrick.
Nah, he's fine. It's okay, baby. We love you.
That's what I said. Like we'll be recording at the moment. I'm recording Luffy, and I'm already having that question in my head. And so we have a game where it'll be scream, 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 and then I get done, and everybody in the booth goes, "It's okay."
There's a bunch of recordings of what stuff sounds like to babies. Mostly it sounds like this. They don't really hear a lot. They're hearing the.
But what if it's?
They think you're having fun. Oh gosh, is that Luffy? It's love Luffy. They're all like, they're like, hashtag woundbound. Like home stuff, but woundbound. I'm just looking for a womb to win. That's my worst joke ever. Even when I fail, I succeed. That being the worst. Oh yeah, those were bad.
Yes.
I heard that, you know how you said there were blacks are really one of the big voice acting and stuff? Well, I remember hearing that Aaron Disney and Matthew Whitehead got it pretty easy when they were doing Alphonse.
Yeah, that's lucky. Those and narrators, characters like ninjas that have mouth coverings and owls
I
and
did,
a suit of armor and
Dominikov
body.
from Murder Princess
Oh my
was
gosh,
one
I'm
of
so
them.
jealous of all those.
And the thing with Aaron was that was the main character.
Yeah, I'm very jealous.
Yeah, that's.
And Jerry doing Jimmy Kudo, because it's all in his head. So.
Right. And our Bruce Elliott doing every narration.
Yes. So jealous. Did you get paid by the line count?
That's right.
So we have about 4 more minutes, so any other questions?
Are you guys looking forward to Attack on Titan? Like, I personally want you to be Hanji, in my opinion. Yeah, so it's about Funimation getting Attack on Titan, and I was like, maybe they can do it. They got this.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean,
At first I was worried, but then my friends got me.
who else would you give it to?
Yeah.
Animation is by far the best. I mean, I'm sorry.
I jumped on the bandwagon for Attack
Oh,
on
I
Titan.
know. We should give it to Just for Kids.
It's gonna be great.
Yeah, it is going to be. I can neither confirm nor deny whether or not I've recorded something on it, but I can say.
The special features can be.
You gonna cry? Show it. I love watching people cry. Come to my screening tonight, 8:30, Arbor Day the Musical. Vic Mignogna, Brina Palencia singing songs. It's awesome. Where is it? 8:30 in the Bergen Building.
It's the Liberal Arts Library.
Liberal Arts Library. Come see it. It's going to be awesome.
It's in the basement.
In the basement. It's called Arbor Day the Musical.
Do you want to give a little description?
It's a wacky musical comedy about September 11th.
Yeah, you brought to New York.
Oh, that's right.
There's snow outside.
Like actual people in Manhattan, I call level 2s. Level 1s are people who actually like lost someone on the day. Level 2s are New Yorkers.
You
Level
guys are level
3s,
two.
rest of America.
In terms of people who are gonna hate you?
Yeah. No, but I bet
It's
it's
like Italia, that's about World War II from the perspective of war, the bad guys to the United States, and they make that into a comedy, so.
Yeah. And you guys have talked to him enough over the weekend that you know that he's a good guy. So, nothing he says is out of anything but.
Oh, you love it. It's actually a really, my wife gave it the best little blurb. She says it's like the Coen brothers tried to make Waiting for Guffman. Except about a director trying to put on a musical about September 11th.
That's awesome.
It was a lot of fun.
So it's not actually a musical about September 11th, it's about a director trying to put on a musical about
Yeah, there's some,
That's different.
you get to see some music from the actual musical, but the songs in it are more like in the spirit of Once, if you know the
Yeah.
movie Once. Sort of organic songs that happen.
This is actually coming in Rochester in a couple of weeks.
That's it, I think we're out of time.
Yeah.
All right.
WeRiseMag.com.